Today, we're talking about Sanford, Florida, a central Florida city that rose from fire, frost, and lots of bad fortune. Once citrus groves, then celery fields, today it's a thriving riverside community.
This is a city that refused to disappear.
I'm top Orlando Realtor Scott Garrison.
And I am Realtor Diana Sakoto with ReMax Town & Country, Orlando's #1 real estate company.
I've lived and grew up here for 45 years. I went to the local Winter Park High School. I studied at the University of Central Florida, and I've been selling real estate full-time here in Central Florida for over 35 years.
From a forever home for your family to rental properties and vacant land and everything in between, we know this area like you can count on. As the experienced realtors, you already know.
One of our favorite places to talk about and to actually visit is Sanford, Florida, with its scenic riverfront, charming, historic downtown, and a story that stretches back literally centuries. It's a city full of character.
Long before Europeans arrived, the area now known as Sanford was inhabited by the Timucuans people.
They established a village over 1,000 years ago here in the area, engaging in fishing, hunting, and agriculture all along the St. Johns River. Now, the neat thing about the St. Johns River is it actually starts far below Sanford, but Sanford is as far as you can navigate. So the St. Johns River for navigation actually starts here in Sanford and goes north all the way to Jacksonville.
In 1513, Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon landed in Florida during the Easter feast, naming it La Florida. By 1565, the Spanish established San Agustin, the oldest continuously occupied European settlement in the continental United States.
By the early 1700s, most of the original Timucuan have died out due to disease and migration. So the Creek Indians from Georgia and Alabama migrated to Florida, seeking refuge here in this area from the British colonists and the conflicts with other tribes. These groups joined the remnants of Florida's original Native American communities, and together with escaped slaves, formed the Seminole tribe. Under Spanish rule, the Seminoles found refuge here in Florida.
Spain welcomed displaced Native Americans and escaped slaves, using them as a buffer against British expansion.
This allowed the Seminole Indians to establish and maintain their communities with relative autonomy compared to their original homelands farther up north of Florida. In the early 1800s, Florida was a Spanish territory. This was Spain here in Sanford. And tensions grew between the United States and that other foreign country, Florida, as the Seminoles and escaped enslaved people fled from Georgia into Florida, which was still under Spanish control. Once the slaves got here, it was a different country. Spain was very tolerant towards African American and enslaved people, and they let them be. These conflicts sparked the First Seminole War, which was 1816 to 1819 with the United States. We actually entered Florida, which is a foreign country, and this tested Spain's hold on the territory.
After the U.S. acquired Florida in 1821, pressure to remove the Seminoles led to the Second Seminole War in 1835 to 1842, the longest and most violent of the three conflicts.
During this time, the U.S. military, new to Florida, being in a U.S. territory, they built forts to secure the region, and that's where Sanford comes in. One of the forts that was built to fight against the existing Seminole Indians was here in Fort Mellon, right in the heart of Sanford. As a matter of fact, Sanford's original name was Fort Mellon.
By the 1800s, a small community had grown around Fort Mellon, named Mellonville, after one of its early residents.
Mellonville sat on the south shore of Lake Monroe, right near where downtown Sanford is today, and served as a port for steamboats along the St. Johns River. Remember, this is as far down the St. Johns River as you could go. It stopped at Mellonville. Mellonville was also a hub for local trade. By the mid-1850s, the Third Seminole War, 1855 to 1858, marked the last major resistance of the Seminole people, who retreated after a battle deep into the Everglades. Interestingly enough, to this time, technically the U.S. government is still at war with the Seminole people, as an official peace was never signed. With Central Florida now largely cleared and more stable, since we didn't have to worry about the Indians, Mellonville remained a small but strategically important settlement, paving the way for new investors like Henry Shelton Sanford to shape its future.
Henry Shelton Sanford, a skilled diplomat and businessman, brought the vision and resources to develop the area.
Born in Derby, Connecticut, he married Gertrude Ellen Dupee, and in 1855 had 4 children.
Sanford served as the U.S. Minister to Belgium, gaining leadership, negotiations, and project management experience, which later helped him in larger scale venture in Central Florida.
By 1870, Henry Sanford acquired more than 12,500 acres just west of Mellonville and envisioned a planned community. He named it Sanford, I wonder where he got that name from, calling it the gateway city to South Florida. This was South Florida back then. He wanted to develop the land, so he invited approximately 150 Swedish settlers who arrived by steamboat in 1871. They cleared the wild subtropical land and prepared it for citrus groves, laying the foundation for a new, flourishing town.
Sanford officially became a city in 1877 with about 100 residents, and in 1883 it absorbed neighboring Mellonville.
So that same year, 1883, President Chester A. Arthur visited the Lakeside Sanford House Hotel. It was built in 1875 and expanded in 1872 for a week-long vacation, signaling that Sanford was gaining national attention.
Life along the St. Johns River pulsed with activity as steamboats carrying people, goods, and produce to and from Sanford, fueling the town's growth.
Long piers stretched from the shore were steamboats connected with the occasional train, creating a seamless flow of commerce that turned Sanford into a bustling hub and earned it as a reputation as a gateway for people, produce, and opportunity. By 1880, Henry S. Sanford was looking abroad to Europe by forming a land company in London, England, to attract European investors while construction began on the South Florida Railroad, with our city of Sanford chosen as the end or its terminus.
By 1884, the city had transformed into a thriving hub of commerce. Its docks busy with trades, its rail stations alive with passengers, and its grand hotel welcoming visitors.
Sanford's vision extended even further. He imagined the city as the commercial heart of Central Florida, capable of moving goods efficiently to far distant markets. For a time, the steamboat lines on the St. Johns River, Hart, DeBary, and Clyde, those are the lines of the steamboats, continued to dominate travel and trade, anchoring Sanford's early economic growth.
Hey, since you are still here, why not drop a like? No rush. Just a thought that I will have mentioned before we keep going.
Meanwhile, Henry Sanford had planted the seeds of industry with his Bel Air groves and experimental gardens. The area's sandy soil, subtropical climate, and easy access to the St. Johns River made it ideal for citrus, and by the 1870s, orange cultivation was booming. Like many places here in Central Florida, Sanford experimented with oranges and lemons and grapefruits, proving that Central Florida could compete in the national citrus trade.
Florida's reputation as a citrus paradise spread quickly, drawing families from the north and across Europe to cultivate the land.
Packing houses were built along the river, and Sanford became the key distribution point. Farmers hauled fruit to the waterfront, loaded crates onto steamships, and shipped them north to Jacksonville and beyond, where they connected with the national rail network. Back at that time, it was considered an extremely special treat to get an orange from Florida, especially in the wintertime.
In 1878, Sidney Chase of Pennsylvania arrived to work for Sanford. Along with his brother Joshua, he later founded Chase and Company in 1884.
The business began providing supplies to growers, but soon expanded into grove ownership and large-scale citrus production itself, making the Chase brothers major players in the Sanford citrus trade.
As the citrus industry grew, Sanford's need for a better transportation became clear. In 1880, the Southern Florida Railroad extended its lines to Sanford, breaking the riverboat monopoly and linking the city directly to Orlando and beyond.
For the city of Sanford, the railroad was a breakthrough. Freight moved faster, more passengers arrived, and the settlement transformed into an even more bustling commercial hub. By the late 1880s, Sanford's growth continued, fueled by citrus. Its riverfront streets were busy with trade, with both riverboats and the railroads carried the harvest to distant markets.
In 1883, Sanford absorbed Mellon, built its riverfront glowing with gas lamps and wooden storefront activity with commerce.
However, on September 27, 1887, a fire ignited at Altree's Bakery on First Street and rapidly spread, destroying homes, businesses, and warehouses. This is the same First Street, if you've ever been to downtown Sanford, that you inevitably end up walking on where all the nice restaurants are. The Sanford House Hotel survived thanks to wet blankets thrown across its roof. Known as the Big Fire, the disaster led to a rebuilding effort that replaced many of the wooden structures with sturdier brick buildings, forging the town's resilience. And that's why when you walk up and down First Street today, you see all those nice, fancy, old-fashioned brick buildings.
Within a few years, Sanford became part of a larger rail network. The South Florida Railroad extended west to Tampa, and the Jacksonville, Tampa, and Key West Railroad connected to the town to Jacksonville by 1886.
The Orange Belt Railway reached St. Petersburg in 1888, and by the 1890s, these lines were absorbed into Henry Plant's system, placing Sanford at the center of Florida's trade.
Barely a decade later, Sanford faced another challenge. On December 29, 1894, the first wave of the Great Freeze struck Central Florida, plunging temperatures to 18 degrees in Orlando and severely damaging citrus groves.
Oranges froze on the branches, destroying the harvest, the entire harvest, overnight. On February 7, 1895, just about 6 weeks later, a second freeze struck even harder, killing both the fruit and many of the actual orange trees. The devastation was staggering. The trees split open because the branches froze with the sap in them, and the sap expanded, causing the trees to bust wide open. Fruit rotted where it hung, and orchards that had taken years and years to grow were wiped out in just a few nights.
The economic impact was severe. For more than 21,000 acres of citrus laid in ruins. In Sanford and the surrounding towns, families who had bet their future in citrus suddenly faced ruin.
Many small farmers abandoned the entire industry, unable to wait 7 years for new trees to mature. Larger growers consolidated the business, and Sanford's role as a leading citrus hub diminished. In response, Sanford adapted. In 1896, I.H. Terwilliger planted the city's first celery crop. No, celery.
A year later, J.N. Whitner and B.F. Whitner Sr. experiment with 3/4 of an acre using seeds imported from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
By 1898, the celery was thriving here in Sanford, succeeding where citrus had failed. Farmers discovered that the rich black muck soil around Lake Jessup and the St. Johns River was perfectly suited for the crop. With irrigation ditches and careful crop management, celery took root as the new agricultural lifeline here in Central Florida and in Sanford.
Refrigerator, rail cars, and local ice houses enabled fresh shipments nationwide, giving new life to Sanford's economy. By the early 1900s, the city had earned the city nickname
Celery City, which it's still known by today. Families like the Chases helped advance the industry, while fields stretched for miles and celery packing houses bustled with activity. Celery here from Sanford traveled in refrigerated cars to major markets like New York City and Chicago, cementing agriculture as the city's economic backbone.
The boom continued for decades. By World War II, Sanford's celery industry was more vital than ever, feeding both American households and military mess halls across the country.
What began with citrus ended with celery, and through both eras, Sanford's role as a shipping and trade hub made the beating heart of Central Florida's agricultural economy happen. In 1913, Sanford became the county seat of the newly formed Seminole County, establishing its role as a region civic center.
Celery remained dominating through the first half of the 20th century, but World War II brought another transformation. The Naval Air Station Sanford opened as a training base for Navy pilots, bringing jobs, growth, and new promise to the city.
So zoom forward to the 1960s, when farming declined due to competition from California and rising costs, and the Navy base closed the base in 1969. Then came the turning point for all of Central Florida, the opening of Walt Disney World in 1971, which shifted the entire region's economy from agriculture to tourism and real estate. And of course, it's still there today. You know, one of the stories about Sanford is that Walt Disney came to the leaders of Sanford at the time, and he wanted to put the Magic Kingdom Disney World, what's Disney World today, in downtown Sanford, approximately where the Central Florida Zoo is today. And the Sanford leaders liked their small town, and they said, no, you cannot come here. The attraction for Disney was that you could go from Jacksonville all the way up the St. Johns River and get off on a boat right there in Sanford, and he thought that would be the perfect draw for tourists. Sanford said no, and to this day it still remains a pretty small and cute town. So it was probably a good decision.
Sanford, with its historic charm and riverfront location, has gradually redefined itself in recent decades.
Projects like the Riverwalk, which is a walking trail all along Lake Monroe, has revitalized the downtown and the waterfront, creating spaces for gathering, strolling, and celebrating the city's layered history. From citrus to celery, to Navy jets, now to cultural and tourism, Sanford's story is one of resilience and reinvention, and not Mickey Mouse.
Today, Sanford is a growing city where historic brick streets meet a lively downtown, and river walks connect to the St. Johns River.
With a population of about 61,000, Many early 20th century buildings have been restored or reimagined as cultural and entertainment hubs. From the Sanford Art Walk to the scenic lakefront views along Lake Monroe, the city balances small town charm with modern growth.
Its real estate reflects with vitality, with historic homes, contemporary neighborhoods, and waterfront properties attracting buyers, investors, and families, drawn to a community with a story still unfolding.
With Sanford's rich history, thriving downtown, and strong sense of community, Sanford isn't just a city to admire, it's a place people want to call home. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home here in Sanford or anywhere in Central Florida, why not give Realtor Scott Garrison in Deanna, Socoto a call? We've been serving you here in Central Florida every day, full-time, day in and day out for over 35 years.
And if you are enjoying this, like the video, stay tuned for more, and let us know which part of Central Florida you want to see featured next.
Thanks for watching. I can't wait to bring you more great stories from the heart of Central Florida. I'm top Orlando Realtor Scott Garrison.
I'm Realtor Diana Socoto.
And we're the experienced realtors you already know. Give us a call.
See you in the next video.